folks. Welcome aboard here. Michael Cohen here with you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one as the Jets lose another one, this time to the Rams 19-9, in a game that really just exemplified this entire season. Let's go into it. All right, so again, the Jets losing 19-9 to the LA Rams at MetLife Stadium. And boy, look, this game exemplified everything that's going wrong with this entire season. You have moments of brilliance, and you have a game where you see mistakes, bad coaching, bad clock management, mistakes, again, turnovers, all kinds of, missed field goals. Everything that went wrong for the Jets all season just seemed to just kind of revolve around this football game. And yes, there's even a little controversy, too, here with Garret Wilson. We'll get into more of that in a second. But this is why, and I think when we take a look, I'll phrase it like this. When it comes to the future of this franchise, and we've had the article with Woody Johnson and the Madden ratings and all the craziness with regards to that story, and then you add all the negativity that's revolving around this franchise, the way they fired people, the way they fired the head coach and the GM this year. At the end of the day, it's all about number 8, and that's Aaron Rodgers, and whether he's going to be here or not next year. And that's, of course, going to be up to the decision makers, whether it be the new GM and head coach, and, of course, the owner as well. And there are times, like we saw last week against Jacksonville, and for the first half of this game against the Rams, we say, man, this guy's still moving around. He's still making plays. He's still zipping a ball over the ballpark, hitting receivers all over the place. The Jets had a 99-yard drive to open the game, get the touchdown. Okay, they missed the extra point, but you know what? Coming off the win last week, you score right away. You're feeling pretty good. Maybe this is a sign that this team's starting to get together a little bit, getting healthy. Maybe it's a good idea to run it back. And then you see the rest of this game, and you sit there and go, maybe it's time to move on. So that's what this game was like. And what really irked me, there were a lot of things that irked me about this game. One of the things that irked me was the lack of involvement with regards to Garret Wilson. Now, this has become a story now because during the past week, there was the rumblings that Garret Wilson may seek a trade in the offseason, and he's been kind of mum about it. He's not too pleased with the fact that his involvement hasn't been very much at all, especially since Davante Adams came in here. And in this game, even though he had 7 targets, had 6 catches, Davante Adams had double that as far as targets are concerned with 13. But the biggest one that stood out for me, and that was really the one that kind of, was a turning point in this game, was the fact that the Jets had a 4th and 4. A 4th and 4 inside the Rams, around the 10-yard line for the Rams. All the Jets had to do, all Aaron Rodgers had to do, was just hit Garret Wilson right open in the middle. He was wide open in the middle, in the flat. And what does he decide to do? Tries to force it into the corner of the end zone to Davante Adams. In fact, there were a couple instances in this game where you saw Aaron Rodgers try to force the ball to Davante Adams because he wants him to have that catch for his 500th career touchdown pass. I understand the record's important to him, and it should be. I understand the record's important for Davante because he wants to catch his buddy's touchdown record. I get that. And it was kind of selfish in a lot of ways. There's Garret Wilson right there in the middle, wide open. He catches that ball. It's a first down. Maybe then later Davante Adams can catch a ball for a touchdown and get that record. And if that's the case, all of a sudden, a game that's 9-6 Jets becomes, 16-6 Jets? It's a different ball game, totally different ball game, and it felt like the game kind of flipped at that point. Eventually the Rams would get a field goal out of it, and we all know it was downhill from there. So that was a mistake, but also that was one of the most glaring things that stood out for me in this game. It was that kind of selfishness on the part of Rodgers and Adams to try to, go for the record instead of trying to play a team ball and go for the win. Not only that, but also, what's with the coach? Look, I understand Jeff Ulbricht's not going to be the coach here next year. I totally get it. But how many times do you have to go for a 4th down? You're going for a 4th and 4 at your own 33-yard line when you're up 6-0. Your own 33, just punt the ball. Thomas Morstead is one of the best punters in the league. And just punt the ball and live to see another drive. Pin the Rams back inside their own 20 if you can. What are you doing going for on 4th and 4? And I understand, hey, look, the Jets were running the ball pretty well at the start of the game. Maybe there was a little bit of momentum going on with the offense. And if they get the first down, we're not talking about this, I get it. But it was just so many times the Jets went for 5 different 4th downs. 5 different 4th downs in this game. That's ridiculous. And they only converted twice. So it's bad coaching. They didn't punt the football at all in this game when in instances where it could have helped them as far as field position is concerned. They obviously opted not to kick field goals, and with the way the kicker was kicking in this game in Carlson, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. He missed an extra point, and when they did give him a chance to kick a field goal, he missed that. So it drove me. It was a game that drives you crazy because it exemplifies everything that's going wrong this entire season. Everything. Miscommunication. Mistakes. Okay, the one turnover they did have when Rodgers got strip-sacked for the fumble, but also gifting your opponent an opportunity to come back in the game and win the game. How many games, and I know this was not a one-possession game, it was a 10-point spread here, but how many times have the Jets lost that one-possession game? Like 6, 7 times this year where they've been that close to winning the game and they just cough it up and give it up to the other team? That's what's got to drive you crazy. That's why this team needs a new set of leadership, new set of eyeballs so badly. And it leads to the question, again, would Aaron Rodgers be here? Will players like Rodgers and Adams be here? And at times, you just watch the way they play and the way they execute, say, man, it's hard to make the argument against not bringing them back. Then you see a game like today, and you say, maybe it's time to move on. I'm dead serious when I say that. It's a tough situation to be in because you look at the quarterback list of free agent quarterbacks out there after the season's over. Sam Darnold is not coming back here, okay? He's going to ask for $40 million a year. He'll probably stay at the Vikings. If not, he'll find another team Midwest or out in the West Coast to go to. Okay? He's not going to come back to the Jets. So you're looking at what? Like Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. It's not a great list. Not a great list. So from that standpoint, you can almost understand why whoever the new GM or new coach would be intrigued at the very least to have an Aaron Rodgers who at times still shows he has it. And we know he still has it. But you can't have moments like that. Why was Garret Wilson wide open? And I thought it was an interesting point that they brought up on SNY, Bart Scott, Connor Rodgers, those guys, where they said, what is your choice going to be? Do you go for the guys who are breaking the records and have all these great stats, and we know that they are great Hall of Fame players, or do you stick with the nucleus that was put in here with guys like Breece Hall and Garret Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson when he comes back next year from his injury? Do you stick with those core guys and try to rebuild around that? I think you try to rebuild around the core guys, the young guys that are still here. And that's why I think Garret Wilson's a very important piece to this thing for the Jets. And it's unfortunate that he wasn't that heavily involved when he could have helped this team win this game today. It was right there for the taking. Now, that leads to this other thing that I want to bring up here. Since the Woody Johnson story broke out by The Athletic, and as I said in my last video, if I were a candidate for coach or GM, I would have questions after that story came out. Well, it's now been reported now by 3 people. We saw it first by Jordan Schultz on Friday, I believe, but with Colin Cowherd. And then on Sunday, first by Mark Garofalo of NFL Network, and then Connor Hughes of SNY, that the Jets head coaching and GM positions are indeed desirable, in spite of everything that's going on. And it's because of the talent that's on this team. The salary cap situation's not bad. They have a lot of guys, a lot of young players that are locked into contracts. Now, of course, you have the Rodgers situation that they have to figure that one out big time, whoever that may be. But it is a desirable situation. So the question's going to be, for me, is this. It's really a 2-part question. One, can that person, or the 2 people, I should say, for the GM and head coach, are they able to handle not just New York, but handle the expectations of this owner who, let's be honest, we know likes to meddle in things from everything we've read? And What is the decision with Rodgers and Adams, especially with Aaron Rodgers? What's the plan with him? And if he's not going to be here, who are they going to bring in here to be the quarterback of this team in 2025? So there's going to be challenges. Those are the two biggest challenges right off the bat as far as this job is concerned. And again, the top names that get mentioned, Mike Vrabel gets mentioned. I thought one thing that was interesting that Connor Hughes mentioned is that the Jets are looking for guys who have experience. So obviously, two GM candidates the Jets just interviewed. John Robinson, former Titans GM. Thomas Dimitroff, former Falcons GM, guy who's been in the NFL forever. Luis Riddick doesn't have any executive experience, but a guy who's been around the league for a long time. Those are, a couple of names of GMs they've been looking at. Obviously, the head coach ranks, I just mentioned Vrabel being one coach out there who has experience that has been high on their list and is reported as being high on their list. And then, of course, we all know about the very odd story with Bill Belichick, as he apparently tried to put in a call to the Jets to see what their interest was, if any at all, before taking that UNC job. And we all know about Rex Ryan throwing himself out in the mix as well. So there are coaches who do have that desire to come, curiosity about what's going on here with the Jets, because they see that the talent is there. So we'll see how this thing shakes out. If the Jets are going to go for experience, and I think that would behoove them, I would really want, if it were me, the combination of obviously Robinson and Vrabel would be interesting because they've worked together in Tennessee, or Dimitroff's Vrabel would be very interesting as well. Two different guys right there. I've heard some fans throw John Gruden's name out there. I don't know if that's going to happen because not just the fact that he's been out of the league for a few years, but also the whole situation with that legal trouble he's had there against the NFL. I don't know if the Jets want to get into the weeds in that, so I don't see that happening. But an experienced head coach, that would certainly take a lot of the first-year head coach candidates potentially out of the mix. We'll see how that plays out. But keep in mind, even though we're talking about some of the bigger name coaches that have had experience, that doesn't take out the idea of having a lesser-known coach or a less successful coach who's had experience being in the mix. I'm talking about like an Arthur Smith, a Matt Nagy. I know these are names that are not going to make the Jet fans excited and certainly not going to make me excited, but that's very much out there too. So just keep that in mind as well. So, folks, again, like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts below. How do you feel about this? Obviously, this Jets team just drives everybody crazy. We'll talk to you next time.